Good morning, everyone. My name's Linda Zangrilli. I am the chapter chair for SCORE Bucks County, and I'd like to welcome you all to our cash flow seminar that is going to be presented today by one of our esteemed colleagues. Before we begin, I would like a few housekeeping rules just to give you the lay of the land. First of all, you don't have to worry about taking notes. This is being recorded. Everyone will get a copy of the recording and you will get a copy of the slides. Anyone who registers will get that. So that kind of takes the pressure off. You can just listen and enjoy. Questions that you may have, please use the Q&A box and we will handle all the questions at the end. So I think we're in good shape, and if you'll allow me a few moments, I'd like to talk a little bit about SCORE and what we do and who we are. SCORE is a national organization. Someone's controlling the slide, so I'm waiting. There we go. A national nonprofit organization. We have roughly 350 chapters all over the United States, some 13,000 members. Our mission is very, very simple. We are dedicated to helping small businesses start, grow, and succeed. We're also a resource partner of the Small Business Administration. What we do is we serve all business owners in Bucks County, anyone who's an entrepreneur throughout the county from Quakertown on down. We have 3 different offices, although today everything's virtual. But we serve the Quakertown area. We have an office in Lower Bucks and one in Doylestown. Our membership includes 50 or so ex-executives. Most of them retired, but there are many who are still working. So they bring experience in all facets of business. Our services are all free. There's no expiration date on what we do. So if you come to us and want some mentoring to get yourself started in business or help your business grow, you'll never be charged. And you can use us as long as you find us useful. We also present educational seminars like this. And thanks to COVID, we're all virtual. And for now, everything is no charge. So that's good. And sometimes when we do in-person seminars, we do have a small fee because we serve food. So if you need help with your small business, please contact us at buckscounty.score.org by calling the number that you see on the screen. And again, you're going to have these slides, so you'll be able to take advantage of it. Or if you're interested, if you're a person who would like to give back to the community and you'd like to join us as a member, we have various categories of membership. You can be a mentor. You can be a volunteer helping with administrative. You can be a subject matter expert or a workshop presenter. Today, you're going to hear from one of our people who is actually several of these categories. He's a mentor, he's a volunteer because he does a lot of the administrative work, and he's a workshop presenter for us, as you'll find out. Again, same website, buckscounty.score.org, and the phone number 215-943-8850. So thank you again for coming along on this journey with us. And without further ado, I'd like to bring in one of our mentors. He's a mentor. He's an experienced Wall Street executive, now retired. He's also the chairman of our seminar committee. So he's the gentleman that puts all this out there. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Ed Torello. Ed?
Yes, thank you very much, Linda. And welcome everyone to our seminar webinar program. I'd just like to make 1 or 2 comments. This is part of a 35 webinar program that we put together over a 12-month period. It goes from September to September. Hopefully, and we've put all of this out on our calendar on our website, so you can see all of the different webinars that we're offering throughout the year. And you can then set your phone or whatever you use to set your appointments accordingly so that you won't miss out on any of them. As Linda said, we're also recording everything, and you'll get a copy of that plus a copy of the slides. So we tried to make it as easy as possible for you to use our material as quickly as you can. With that, I'm just going to introduce our featured speaker, Alberto Cassidi. Al wears many hats within SCORE, and he's had a 35-year career with Westinghouse, being, among other things, the managing director and business development director for Brazil and for other parts of the world, actually a global managing director for their products. He was in the nuclear engineering area, where, as you know, Westinghouse excelled. And Al has 2 degrees from the University of Sao Paulo in Brazil, a bachelor's and a master's, and he also has an MBA from the University of Pittsburgh. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Al. And as Linda told you, if you have questions, use the Q&A button so that we can take care of all of those. Again, Al, up to you.
Thank you, Ed, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. Year after year, cash flow is the top reason why small business fail, and yet there is a lot of misunderstanding about it. I've been mentoring for 7 years now, and I've been impressed with the effort and dedication of small business owners. Many are overwhelmed in handling all aspects of the business, and as a result, financial monitoring, cash flow in particular, does not have the priority needed. So the objective here today is to review cash flow management in detail and also define a proactive approach for cash flow management to be implemented. The focus, my focus, I'm not a CPA, so my focus is going to be on management applications rather than the accounting side of cash flow. So with that, we'll move to these are the topics that we're going to cover. Some brief introduction describing the financial statements that exist, and the cash flow is one of them. And then cash flow, define cash flow and its components, and review what type of analysis there exists. Then I'll move to fundamentals of cash flow. We'll describe the business process timeline to show where cash comes in and out of the business. And then cash flow management, in which we introduce the approach that I believe needs to be implemented. And we also work in a very simple example. And finally, takeaways, we provide the final thoughts and some key points for you to remember. So these are the financial statements that describe the state of your business. And they are the balance sheet, is a report of company assets, liabilities, and equity at a single point in time. And basically the answer to the question is the business building wealth. The second one is the income statement, also called profit and loss statement, that summarizes revenues, costs, and profits during a specified period of time. And they answer the question, are you making profit? And finally, the cash flow statement. It tracks inflow and outflow of cash resulting from operating, investing, and financing activities in a certain period of time. And again, the question that this statement answers is there enough cash to run the business? All those statements are generated by your accountant, and they are your official financial statements for your business. They are very important in any sort of loan application that you wanted to have. They are going to request those financial statements. If you are looking for a partner, or if you're looking to sell your business, you have to provide this type of information. In addition, this is very important for you to review this periodically, because that is the performance of the past. And maybe there are some lessons that you can learn of what's happening and make some management changes to avoid this in the future. And that's why it's important for you to review periodically. Frankly, I had some clients in the past that would say that I haven't seen my statement in 3 months. My accountant doesn't provide me. And let me tell you, if you're paying an accountant to provide a service, he needs to provide you this on a monthly basis so you can really understand what's happening. So I mentioned about misconceptions about cash flow, and one of those is I have strong profits, so I must have positive cash flow. And this is not true. And your have strong profit is a necessary condition, but may not be sufficient. Even profitable business can go bankrupt because of lack of cash. Second is we generate the cash flow statement when we prepare the annual budget, and that's sufficient. No, that's not sufficient because things in the business changes very, very quickly. It's a dynamic situation. You need to make sure that you have cash flow forecasts and updates to really reflect what's happening out there. And third is my business isn't big enough to need cash flow projections. And cash flow management is too complex for a small business. And neither of those are true because it doesn't matter your size. You need to make sure that you understand what's happening, make projections to avoid bad outcomes in terms of the business. And cash flow management is not complex. And I hope you agree with those statements after we complete this presentation. So cash flow is its importance. Cash flow is, the definition is a measure of money flowing in and out of the business organization during a period of time. And there is a difference between budget and manage and cash flow. Budget is the overall estimate for how much money you're going to make in a period, let's say a year, and how much money you're going to spend in that year. But it doesn't tell you when those events are going to happen. And that's why cash flow is important, to make sure that you understand when money is coming in, when money is going out, and make sure that you have always the ability to have some cash. In order to have transparency in the reporting of those activities, and this primarily is for outside consumption of to understanding companies. The cash flow is divided in 3 categories: operating activities, investing, and financing. And this cash operating activity is fundamentally the core business, is cash from the sales of your products and services, and the expenses are in all the inventory, payroll, and everything else that you need to operate that business. The second bucket is investing activities. If you are getting cash from investments that you're making, or you are selling assets. And the consumption of cash in this category is acquisition of assets. You're buying other business and so on. And finally, the financing activities is capital raised through bonds and loans. And if you are using money to pay dividends to your stockholders and paying existing loans. So all those things happen at the same time. And you heard many times that business cannot have run out of money. That's true, but in some cases, operating activities cannot perform and doesn't generate cash. In which case, the other 2 bucks need to provide cash in order to continue operating. So this is the desired situation is for you to have a very strong cash flow from operating, so you can use that money in order to expand, acquire additional assets, and pay dividends to your stockholders. a negative cash flow operating activities is really not sustained in the long term. So I mentioned the different analysis. I start with the financial record that is provided by your accountant. This is really a backward view of their business performance, because it's done with actual results from your business. So you are looking back in history. This is what happened. It's again performed by your accountant or qualified software, because it's an official financial record and therefore needs to follow strict rules of accounting. And typically is performed, you should perform at least on a monthly basis, should have your financial records review on a quarterly, monthly or quarterly basis. And the other type of cash flow analysis application is for planning purposes. This is a forward view of your business performance. You are projecting future cash flows resulting from your estimates on how the business is going to perform in a future period of time. This is performed typically by the business owner. Why? Because the business owner is the only has a knowledge about the product, the market, and therefore is able to do a forecast. This is not something that is done by your accountant, and is revised very often depending on the business needs. There are no rules in terms of doing this, because it's primarily a planning tool, and it changes as the business condition changes. So why focus on cash flow? It's only because, as I indicated before, is one of the top reasons why business fail. Okay, and if you run out of cash, you cannot pay employees, suppliers, and other expenses, and you cannot generate sales, and that's why it's extremely important. Otherwise, you'll be bankrupt. It's also good to explain the sources of cash generation and how cash is spent by your business. It aggregates everything, and it provides a good source of information. And if you're planning to grow or invest in some other activities, a positive cash flow is the enabler for you to do such expansion. Very important for banks, if you apply for a loan. It's very important for investors if you are looking for partners or some people to invest in your business, or if you want to sell your business. Your financial statements is going to be the primary source of information that they will require. The fundamentals, we'll go through a timeline of a typical business, and it may not apply to your specific business, but the idea is there. So the customer order a service or a product. The first activity is to order supplies. And once you receive those supplies, you also have an accounting trigger called accounts payable. That is something that you have to pay as a liability that the business acquired. But at that point, there is no cash involved. So you receive those supplies and you proceeding to produce the product or build the inventory. And then at certain point in time, you have to pay that invoice that you got from your supplier. That's when cash goes out. So typically it varies, but some suppliers offer a request payment in 30 days. So it's a significant amount of time. So once you have your inventory or products, you begin to sell. And once you sell, there is another accounting trigger called accounts receivable. So this means that you deliver a product and the customer owes you something, and you send an invoice, and sometime in the future, they are going to pay that invoice, and that's when cash comes in. So this is a generic type of business timeline, and I'll address retail next. But the problem with cash flow comes because of this difference in time in which you have to first spend cash to generate cash. And if you don't manage it properly, then it could be a problem. You run out of cash and you cannot be in business. So in retail, it's something simpler because you are selling the products, you are getting the cash immediately, or immediately after if they pay with a credit card. But the supply portion is exactly the same. Just an observation: if you're using a foreign supplier, then the timeline here is much longer because it may take 2 months for you to from an order to receive because of transportation, customs clearance, and everything else. So you need to be careful when you plan if you have a foreign supplier. But the fundamental issue still continues, and you spend cash before you receive cash. And there are some other business models in which you pay when you order, right? This would be ideal. It's a lot of web business work like that, but in typical retail, you have to build your inventory to sell. So the causes of cash flow problems resulting from it's basically a couple reasons: low profits. You may not have enough sales. You may not have the adequate prices. Your expenses may be too high that lead to a low profit. Insufficient planning or lack of cash reserve is one. Excess production capacity. You're spending money producing and acquire assets that you are not using. And bad inventory management. You're over ordering some products that it takes time to sell, or you are keeping a lot of products that requires a significant investment. Fluctuations on demand and growing too fast can lead to that. And if you're not invoicing, if you are in the business to business, or you're a project business, then you need to make sure that you invoice on time, and as well not giving your customer too much credit. Meaning, if you ask for them to pay in 10 days or 20 days or 30 days, the longer you give them to pay, you're giving basically credit to them. So the idea of cash flow management is really the vision of this vessel. There is cash coming in, cash going out, and you need to have always a reserve here so you are not dry. And that's exactly what cash management does. So a couple of points in terms of how to improve cash flow. Basically, if you improve profitability of your business, it goes a long way, but you also need to pay attention to the cash inflows and cash outflows. So the cash inflow and outflow, basically, the idea is to expedite how you get in cash and slow down how you spend cash. And this is a representation to be done in an ethical and legal way, okay? And we'll go over some of those recommendations. First is accurately invoicing immediately upon product delivery and services. I have seen examples of people waiting 2 months to invoice the customer, and that's a waste, and it enhances the cash flow problem that you have. So make sure that it's accurate, because otherwise the customer is going to return the invoice, and you have to correct and send back. So these are time waste. Make sure that you have a clear language on payment terms. You know, it's due in 30 days exactly clear rather than being vague. Offer flexible ways for payment, like use a credit card. And if you're in a project type of business, you need to ask for prepayment, because you are going to make investments in getting materials, components, and manpower as you go along in the project. And it's perfectly okay to ask for prepayment. And last, reduce the terms of payment. Instead of ask them to pay in 30 days, ask for 20. It will help your cash flow. In the outflow side, take advantage of the payment terms that are supplied by are offered by your suppliers. If they ask you to pay the invoice in 30 days, don't pay in 10. Wait 30 and pay it. It's perfectly okay. Negotiate with suppliers on price and demand. Perhaps you are changing suppliers, you have the opportunity to negotiate, or if the contract expires with the same supplier, it's okay to ask. You never know what is your leverage, but you need to at least try. And then time your loan payments and purchases such that you do it when your cash flow is positive. This is when you have that discretion. The other recommendations is implement an inventory control, monitor inventory turns. You don't want to buy a large inventory if your supplier can restock in less than 15 days. So you buy, monitor your inventory, restock, and keep going. And that's what calls inventory turns. And very profitable products have inventory turns of 10 to above 10. So it's a very useful to make sure that you have an efficient inventory control. The same thing with product mix. If you can live with a reduced set of products. If you have a large number of products, you have to invest in inventory for that, and some may not be sold, and you keep you're left with inventory that's not performed, and the best way is to liquidate this non-performing inventory. It's you do not get the full value, but at least you get cash that you can put to work. Keep overhead flexible. Do not enter into long-term contracts without possibility of termination with no penalty. For example, maintenance and support. You need to keep it flexible because things may change, and you need to optimize your operating budget. And with a fixed contract, you may not be able to do it. Another is manpower. You need to hire full-time employees if you have a base that support them. The peaks and valleys you need to handle through temporary work. And last, build a cash reserve to put in a position of strength if you intend to buy a business, or in case of handling unplanned events. So these are some of the things that you can do in terms of improving your cash flow. Let's address now cash flow management. This management is done at two levels. One is operational, that is weekly or monthly, and you're looking 3 to 4 months ahead. And the second one is strategically. You do it monthly, but you look beyond the existing year, and that can provide you information that you, if you're intending to expand or grow and so on. So you really can determine what is the cash requirements to do it. And the look plan ahead is done with appropriate forecast or projection of future sales and expense. And again, this is done by the owner manager, and this is not something that your accountant is going to do it. So this forecast is an important management tool. You are able to evaluate what-if scenarios. For example, it helps you to determine if you have enough cash to build to keep your business running. It helps you budget and time purchases. It helps you to determine if you can afford to repay a loan. It helps you to determine cash needs for a planned expansion. So it's a basic a management tool. So forecasting capability, there are many business owners that do not have that. And in the normal course of business, you have to take corrective action either for trends or performance. So therefore, knowing your numbers is important, that you have a good understanding of the financial performance of your business at any point. And that's why having the discipline to review your financial records that you receive from your accountant provides you that understanding how your business is doing, and can also provide you the confidence that you can forecast something about the future. So, so you need to have this tool to monitor your financial performance and to forecast potential impacts that may happen. So it's even more critical to determine the action in case there are unplanned events. And I remember in March when COVID hit, the business were shut down, and the question is, what do you do? And the cash flow is the tool to go, because that can determine what is your financial resilience. How many months can you go without sales? What actions do you need to take in terms of reducing your expenses and so on? So again, looking at what-if scenario is very important. So the financial forecast is fundamentally for you to estimate how much products you're going to sell, to determine the sales in the weeks or months ahead, and this estimate needs to be realistic. Okay, you always want, there is no problem that everybody wants your business to be successful, but you need to be realistic. And out of that comes a cost of sales you can derive based on the costs involved in sales that you have, your indirect costs, direct payroll, advertising, marketing, and so on, as well as other operating expenses. You need to add contingencies, create a conservative plan that gives you some margin for uncertainty. So if you plan to purchase assets and loans that are going to be required, and more important, how much you are going to withdraw for your own salary. So in case you have gaps, these are the sources of funding. Business credit cards, you need to make sure that this is, you can pay the balance at the end of the month, otherwise the interest expense is going to be significant. You can get a business loan, but only if it generates more sales. Obtain line of credit for emergencies. Liquidate or lease assets, use personal funds. And those things you need to resolve ahead of the need. For example, if you're running out of cash this week and you go to a bank, I need an immediate loan, the likelihood of you to get is not great. And if you get, the interest rate is going to be very high, because they have to run to understand your business, to understand your financials, to go through a process of vetting before they make a commitment about the loan. So resolve, get your plan in place before you need it. So let's work on a simple illustration of what the cash flow management is. We're going to use a startup business that is preparing its cash flow forecast for the first quarter of the year, and is starting using an 11,000 loan that he got, and he will provide monthly estimates for cash flow and outflow. So we're going to use a template by month, and the template includes all the line items that are included, but when you develop one for your business, you need to tailor those lines to the exact items that you have. You may have insurance, you may have some other things that you need to add. So for month one, is estimate the sales it would generate about $5,000 in cash. He has a $11,000 loan. He estimate payment to suppliers of $2,000, and he has payroll, wages and salaries about $5,000, and $500 in rental. So if you plug this into this your template, you have $16,000 in positive cash, and $7,500 in cash consuming, giving a net cash flow of $8,500. So at the end of this period, then you have a balance of $8,500. So let's move to month two. Is forecasting sales cash of $6,000, supplying payments of $4,000, and the same wage and rental for that month. So if you plug into the template, you have $6,000 in positive cash and $9,500 in negative, giving a negative cash flow for this month. So as I discussed, not even though he's negative cash flow, he's still being able to operate because he has a reserve. So, but this is a red flag on his operation that he needs to be careful. So moving forward, for month three, he's increasing sales. He's now at $8,000. He's paying supplies $6,000. And have the same wages and rental. And during this month, he wants to buy an equipment that is priced at $4,000. So if you plug in, it's $8,000 positive cash flow and $15,500 in negative cash going out of the business. This gives a net cash flow of $7,500 negative, which added to his reserve is negative. So this is a situation that he has to take action. So, and there may have different actions, short and long term. In the short term, he needs to clearly take a look at this. Does he need this equipment immediately, or can he delay this expense? And this comes to his production planning. As you can see, he's increasing sales. So if this equipment is required to keep this trend of higher sales, he needs to find another solution. So the other solution could be lease the equipment rather than buy. So he still have a positive cash flow there. And the other alternative is to get a loan or buy on credit. but it resolved the cash flow problems in month 3, but it's going to have implications in the subsequent months. So these are the short-term actions that management needs to take, but there is a long-term action that he also needs to investigate, because his sales is growing at 30%, but his supply payment is growing at 50%. So something is happening. Perhaps his cost structure is not good, or he's not doing it in an efficient way, and he needs to evaluate. So this is the power of this, that you are able to determine the actions that you need to be taken, and you don't have to wait until month 3 to take those actions. You can take action immediately. So moving forward, my recommendation is that you develop your own forecast method. Again, for most small businesses, cash flow forecast is simple and straightforward, like I showed. However, it takes practice, and I am sure that we will not be good at your first try. It's something that you need to practice to be comfortable in estimating what's going to happen in the future. It's not something that it's necessarily straightforward. And the important thing is that you need to learn this process before you need it. If you have an immediate problem, you cannot apply something that you are not comfortable with, that you have not grasped the details of doing. So I encourage you to learn before you need it, by developing a template that is specific for your business, organize the data to ensure efficiency. And this is very important, because you do not have a lot of discretionary time. And therefore, if you don't organize your data, you're going to spend more time looking and searching and analyzing data than planning and analyzing your solutions. So make sure that you structure your data. Do not let data accumulate without resolving it, and because that makes your process a lot more efficient. And your overall objective is that you spend more time in analyzing, in planning, rather than searching for data. So in this webinar, we basically cover the initial 2 steps in a learning process. That is, you are recognizing what I'm talking about, and you develop some knowledge about cash flow. Now you need to take this learning to the next level. And the next level is to analyze and analyze, develop your own forecast, and analyze the results. So that's the way you take knowledge to something that is concrete and can help you in your business. But this is up to you, and I encourage you to do it, because when you need it, you are prepared, and you can develop a strategy that is best for you. And I'm going to repeat again: establish the discipline or review your P&L monthly to know what is happening in the past, and perhaps will help you in the future. So in conclusion, a couple of points that I want to emphasize again. Make a cash flow your problem. Manage it. This is not a problem for an accountant. An accountant deals with numbers, the actual numbers that is a result of your business performance. Your manager, as a manager, need to look forward and estimate what's going to happen in the future. Develop a cash flow forecast for your business and update it regularly. Never run out of money. Find a solution before it happens. And again, improve your cash flow by taking advantage of some of the recommendations that were made in terms of improving profitability and optimizing cash flow. And more important, if you encounter problems, do not give up. Seek help. And there is a lot of help in available for you. And I would like to mention, like Linda discussed in the beginning, in the SCORE, we have mentoring programs that can sit down with you and guide you to develop your own specific, help you resolve your own specific problem. And we also have seminars, webinars, and templates. If you go to score.org, there is a ton of templates. So knowledge is not a problem. It's available. I think you need to take to the next step in applying this knowledge to a real problem that you have. So I encourage you to, if you have a problem, reach out of SCORE that help is available. Thank you very much. And Ed, are there any questions?
Yeah, yes. Can you hear me out?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a number of questions, actually. The first one is, would you recommend use of a business line of credit to reduce the amount of cash reserves sitting idle?
Yes, the cash reserve, you can clearly solve any cash flow problem by having this huge reserve, right? But it's not efficient. So you need to have a reasonable cash reserve. But if you have a line of credit available, that can helps you define because the cash reserve, you're going to pay interest. If you have money, allocate this, a smaller cash reserve so you can deal with some smaller problems that you may have, but keep the line credit and use when is needed. But definitely the availability of the cash reserve can help you decrease the amount of cash that stays unused in the cash reserve.
Al, I guess there's no exact rule of thumb as to how much cash reserve you should keep on hand. Would there be like a percentage, like 50% of your normal operating expenses you should always have as a reserve in addition to your normal cash flow? Or is that not a sensible idea?
Well, there are some rules that I'm not sure if I agree, like holding 3 months of your indirect expenses. Okay, and this is the best way is for you to develop your forecast for your specific to your business and see how much purchases you're making and make that determination that is applicable to your business.
Okay, I have another question here. Where would you recommend holding cash reserves to receive the highest possible interest rate?
That's the $3 million question, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Savings account paying less than 1%. It's it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I understand. Here's another one. In year 8, thinking of starting all new accounting forms, spreadsheets, as mine are so very messy. Good use of time. Basically, I think she's asking, should she redo her whole accounting system and get it on, into I guess, a much easier use pattern. Like, I guess they offer all of these different accounting things now online and whatnot. What is your answer? I think it's sit down with your accountant, but.
Well, if you have an accountant that can guide you, but you need to define to the accountant what lines of what accounts you need to define to him, because or her. I have seen people that throw this problem to the accountant, and he defines all those lines that I'm not sure if is the best way of manage the business. You need to define what specific items you need to track that are important to your business, and then identify that to your accountant, that these are the lines that you need to include in your P&L statement. Or you can use an accounting software that you enter the issues that you wanted to track. And ultimately, you can ask SCORE Mentor to what is the best way to do it.
Okay. We have another question. What kind of tools to monitor financial performance are there for people who do not have an accountant?
A spreadsheet. If you're familiar with how a spreadsheet works, you can do everything that your accountant does using a simple spreadsheet. I have helped several clients in developing a spreadsheet for them to do it, because in the beginning, of your business, you really don't necessarily need to hire an accountant immediately. So you can do some of this thing, provided it's organized in a straightforward way, that at a certain point it reaches to a level that you can ask an accountant to do this service for you. But a spreadsheet can do it. But I go back to that simple financial forecast. You can do that by hand, quite frankly. If it's simple enough, you can do it. So I encourage you, whatever way you think is more appropriate, but a simple spreadsheet, you can do it everything.
So some folks are asking about the line of credit. So if you have a business and you've operated for a number of years, you sort of know your ups and downs in terms of the cash flow. Would you say that you should keep on hand a line of credit that equals at least your worst month so that you could fill in that gap? Or how would you go about setting the amount that you think you'd need?
Well, let's understand first what a line of credit is. Is the amount you and your bank define the amounts, and most likely is going to be defined by your bank, the maximum amount of money in this line of credit. In the line of credit, you take whatever portion you need for your business, and you pay interest just in the portion that you are using. You are not paying interest in the whole amount of your line of credit. So in that regard, you don't. The maximum amount is going to be determined by your bank anyway, by looking at your P&L and your balance sheet.
Okay. Another question is concerning spreadsheets, and the person's asking, I'm not sure what kind of details to put on the spreadsheet. Should I ask my mentor's advice, or what should I do? Obviously, there's standard things to put on, but what do you say? I think the more detail, the better, if in fact you want to know how your business is doing.
Yeah, I think in anything that you're monitoring and tracking, there is a trade-off. Too many details, you're spending a lot of time and very little benefit. So you need to look at the most important items that you need to track and do it systematically. So it's a trade-off of time spent versus benefit and value that tracking gives you.
Yeah.
For example, I recently worked with a client in which they had 35 products, and we are defining a tracking spreadsheet that tracks by product, and we work out a situation that we can reduce that 35 into a group of 5. and then do the forecast estimating on the group of 5, and have very meaningful results and uses for this simplified way.
Okay. We have someone who's asking basically if it's not just a sole proprietorship, so to speak, but they have investors, is there an extra level of detail that they have to provide to the investors, or is it the same as you've been describing here?
I don't know. It's going to be dependent on what is the agreement, what is the operating of this partnership with this investor. How is he is an investor? He has equity in the company or not? But in principle, the financial statements that your accountant generates has all the information to completely understand what's happening in the company. So I assume that this investor wants to see how things are being done, what are the results, and these are the documents that they should be looking at.
Okay. We have one final question here because we're right at our time. One person has an old van that they say has not brought in a lot of cash, but her business is doing okay. But the van's been laying dormant for 2 years. I suspect the question is, what should I do with it? I would assume sell it, but I would say that would be the equivalent of old assets sitting around that you described earlier in the presentation.
Yeah, if it has no use, take whatever you can get out of that. Cash in your hand is better than.
Right, that's what I thought. We have room for one more. Should businesses have a collection consultant to assist them? I guess it means if people are late in paying you.
Yeah, this I think is a situation that it's a business that do business to business or projects in which they issue invoices, right?
Yeah.
I am not familiar with collecting companies, so I cannot tell you. But if you are in this situation, the best thing that you need to do is to follow up. You send the invoice, 2 weeks later, follow up and remind your contact that the invoice is due, and a week later follow up again, because depending on the relationship between you and your customer, I've seen cases in which they're a supplier to a large company, so they have a lot of leverage, and they never paid in 30 days. Mm. And a collecting company is not going to help that situation.
And they charge a fee besides.
In addition to that, they charge a fee.
Yeah. Well, we're right at our appointed time. So first, I'd like to thank Al for an excellent presentation. And I'd like to thank all of the folks who dialed in for listening to the complete presentation. And if you have any questions, you of course can send them to our SCORE email address that Linda put up on the screen. You'll all be receiving a copy of the presentation and also the slides. So again, thank you very much. And on behalf of SCORE and Linda, do you have any final words?
I just wanted to say that was a great presentation. I see the comments coming in. People learned a great deal from Al, as we always do. I've mentored with him many times, and I always learn something. So we appreciate the time he took to do this for us. And thank you to all of you who participated. We look forward to seeing you again at our next event.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you again. And we're going to sign off, which is